Meanwhile, humanity launched the second Part 5. When darkness came, 2 years passed. Humanity continued their work across the galaxy, building relationships one act of kindness at a time. Some council species began advocating for reconsidering humanity's membership application. Others remained cautious but acknowledged that perhaps their initial judgment had been too harsh. Then the anomaly appeared. It started as a disturbance at the galaxy's edge. In a region that few species bothered to explore, sensors detected a tear in space itself, a rift that violated every known law of physics. The Council sent research vessels to investigate. None of them returned. More ships were dispatched, this time with military escorts. The crews sent back one transmission before all contact was lost. The message was simple and terrifying. Something is coming through. It is alive. It is hungry. It is static. Within days, colonies near the rift went silent. Council ships sent to evacuate them found only empty worlds. Buildings stood intact but lifeless. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Just silence and absence, as if millions of beings had simply vanished. Then the swarm emerged fully into normal space. It was unlike anything the galaxy had encountered before. Not a species but a consciousness distributed across millions of individual bodies that moved with perfect coordination. The swarm consumed everything organic it encountered, breaking down matter into energy, growing larger and stronger with each world it touched. The Council mobilized its defense forces, a fleet that hadn't seen real combat in millions of years. Their weapons had been designed for deterrence, not destruction. Their tactics assumed rational enemies who could be negotiated with or intimidated. The swarm was neither rational nor intimidated. The first major engagement was a massacre. Council ships used precision weapons meant to disable rather than destroy, following rules of warfare developed over eons of civilized conflict. The swarm had no such rules. It swarmed over the Council fleet like locusts, tearing through shields and armor, consuming everything organic inside the ships, and leaving only empty metal husks floating in space. 20 billion Council citizens died in the first month. 50 billion in the second. The numbers grew exponentially as the swarm consumed more resources and produced more of itself. Emergency sessions convened constantly. Panic spread through Council chambers as species after species reported losses. Military commanders, trained in peacekeeping rather than warfare, struggled to develop effective strategies. Scientists desperately researched weapons that might stop the swarm. Politicians debated evacuation plans for core worlds. The Brevik's home world fell. Then a major Terthan colony. The swarm was moving toward the heart of Council space, and nothing seemed able to stop it. Chancellor Vorath stood before the Council, his purple feathers drooping with exhaustion and despair. We must face reality. Our forces cannot stop this threat. We are a civilization built for peace. We have not fought a real war in 2 million years. We do not know how. The chamber fell into grim silence. Then Counselor Thexus spoke quietly. There is one species in this galaxy that knows how to fight. One species that evolved for warfare and survival. One species we rejected because we feared their capacity for violence. Everyone knew who he meant. The humans, Vorath said slowly. You are suggesting we ask the humans for help. I am suggesting we beg the humans for help, Thexus corrected. We have no other options. We need warriors, and we rejected the only warriors available because we were comfortable in our peace. That comfort may now destroy us. The debate was brief. Fear and desperation overcame pride. The Council voted to send a formal plea to Earth. The transmission reached President Jiwan within hours. She convened an emergency meeting of Earth's government and military leadership. The room was filled with the same people who had stood before the Council 2 years earlier, hearing themselves called dangerous and primitive. Admiral Sunho spoke first. They rejected us. They called us monsters. They told us we were too violent to join their civilization. Now they want us to save them. Yes, Jiwan agreed. That is exactly what they want. The question is, what do we do? We help them, said Ambassador Hyan immediately. We don't let people die just because they were rude to us. With respect, Ambassador, Sunho replied, this is not about rudeness. This is about survival on a galactic scale. If we commit our forces to this fight, we could lose everything. Earth's entire defense fleet, our best soldiers. We would be risking our own survival for species that made clear we were not welcome. Commander Taeyang, who had been studying the data on the swarm, added his perspective. The threat is real. If the swarm consumes the Council space, it will eventually reach Earth. We cannot hide from this. We will have to fight eventually. Dr. Jinseo, who had returned from his medical missions only weeks before, spoke up. We are having the wrong debate. This is not about what the Council deserves or what is strategically optimal. This is about who we are. Earth made us strong for a reason. Not so we could survive alone, but so we could protect others. That is the lesson Earth truly taught us. The room fell silent. Jinseo's words echoed what many were thinking but hesitant to say. President Jiwan stood. Earth has faced extinction many times in our history. Ice ages, plagues, volcanic winters, and our own capacity for destruction. We survived all of it. Do you know why? Because when things got hard, humans helped each other. The strong protected the weak. The skilled taught the unskilled. We survived together or not at all. She looked around the room at faces marked by Earth's harsh gravity, bodies built for endurance, minds sharpened by challenges that would have broken softer species. The Council was right to fear us. We are dangerous. Earth made us into weapons. But they were wrong about what kind of weapons we are. We are not swords meant to conquer. We are shields meant to protect. The galaxy needs a shield right now. Admiral Sunho nodded slowly. You are right, Madam President. When do we leave? Immediately, Jiwan replied. She began drafting the response to the Council even as Admiral Sunho started mobilizing the fleet. Earth's reply reached the Council within 12 hours. We are coming. Hold on. The Earth Defense Fleet assembled in orbit, a collection of ships that looked crude compared to the elegant Council vessels. Human engineering favored function over beauty, strength over grace. The ships were heavily armored, carrying weapons that the Council would consider excessive for any conceivable peaceful use. Admiral Sunho commanded from the flagship Indomitable, a massive battleship that embodied human philosophy of warfare. It could take enormous punishment and keep fighting. It carried enough firepower to level cities. It was designed by people who understood that sometimes survival required overwhelming force. Captain Deho commanded the assault carrier Valkyrie, a ship designed to deliver troops directly into combat zones. Lieutenant Bora served as his second officer. Commander Taeyang led the fighter squadrons. Dr. Jinseo commanded the medical frigate Mercy, prepared to treat casualties from any species. The fleet jumped to FTL, racing toward the front lines where Council forces were making their last stand. The journey took 3 days. During that time, human soldiers prepared for battle, checking weapons, reviewing tactics, and mentally readying themselves for what was coming. Many of them were young, born after Earth had achieved global peace, trained in military academies that emphasized defense and disaster response rather than conquest. But they came from Earth. Somewhere deep in their genes was the memory of 4 million years of survival against impossible odds. That memory was about to awaken. The fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the combat zone. The scene before them was chaos. Council ships scattered across space, some fighting, some fleeing, some already dead and drifting. The swarm was visible as a dark cloud of moving bodies, millions of individual creatures moving as one, consuming everything in their path. Admiral Sunho studied the tactical display. Analysis, he ordered. The swarm is a hive mind, reported his intelligence officer. Individual bodies have minimal intelligence but perfect coordination. They adapt quickly to threats. Council weapons are too precise, too careful. They are trying to disable rather than destroy. Then we show them how Earth fights, Sunho said grimly. He opened a channel to all Council forces in range. This is Admiral Sunho of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are entering the battle. Follow our lead and you might survive. He then broadcast on all frequencies, including those the swarm might detect. This is the Terran Defense Force. We are from the planet you call Krath 7. We are from a world that tried to kill us every day for 4 million years. We are from Earth and we don't know how to give up. You want to consume this galaxy? You will have to go through us first. The Indomitable surged forward, followed by the rest of the human fleet. They did not fight like the Council forces. They did not use precision weapons or careful tactics. They fought like Earth had taught them to fight, with overwhelming force and absolute determination. Human ships unleashed kinetic weapons, simple projectiles accelerated to incredible velocities. When they hit swarm clusters, they created devastating shockwaves. Human forces used nuclear weapons, something the Council had banned as too destructive. The radiation killed vast numbers of swarm bodies. Human tactics were aggressive, pushing forward even when damaged, trading hits to GE. That makes you fundamentally different from us. Akranthi represent Part 3. The rejection. The council chamber had transformed from a place of diplomatic welcome to something resembling a trial. Captain Deho and Lieutenant Bora stood at the central podium, no longer guests but subjects under examination. Around them, representatives from dozens of species whispered among themselves, their various forms of communication creating a low buzz of anxiety and fear. Chancellor Vorath called for silence once more, his large eyes fixed on the human delegation. Captain Deho, Lieutenant Bora, I think we need to discuss your application more thoroughly. There are concerns that must be addressed. Deho nodded, maintaining his composure despite the obvious shift in atmosphere. Of course, Chancellor. We are happy to answer any questions. A Turthan scientist leaned forward from his platform. Let us discuss your physiology more directly. Our medical scans show that your bone structure is far denser than standard. Your muscle tissue has redundant systems. You have multiple organs that serve backup functions. It appears your entire body is designed for extreme durability. Is this correct? Bora answered this time, her voice steady. Human bodies are resilient, yes. We heal from injuries. We can survive significant trauma, but this is normal for us. We don't consider ourselves unusual. That is the problem, the scientist replied. You consider extreme durability normal. Let me give you a comparison. If I fell from a height of 2 meters on your world, the impact would likely shatter my leg bones. What would happen to you? We would probably be fine, Deho admitted. Maybe some bruising. Children fall from playground equipment all the time and usually just get back up. The scientist sat back, his expression unreadable to humans but clearly conveying shock to other council members. Your children regularly survive falls that would hospitalize our adults. Do you understand how disturbing that is? Another representative spoke up, this one from a species that resembled large insects. Your presentation showed something called extreme sports. We researched this after seeing it. You have activities where you intentionally jump out of aircraft, trusting fabric to save you. You climb vertical surfaces without safety equipment. You surf on frozen water down mountains at high speeds. You do these things for entertainment. Why? Bora hesitated, realizing how strange this must sound. Because it's fun? Because it challenges us? Because we enjoy testing our limits? You enjoy risking death, the insect representative stated flatly. For fun. When you put it like that, it sounds worse than it is, Deho said defensively. Counselor Thexus pulled up more data on the central display. Let us discuss your history. According to your own records, in the last century alone you have had 2 global conflicts, warfare that encompassed your entire planet. You developed weapons capable of destroying your own world multiple times over. You call this concept mutually assured destruction. You prevented war by threatening to kill everyone, including yourselves. This was your peace strategy. The humans remained silent. There was no good defense for that particular aspect of their history. Chancellor Vorath pressed the point. Most council species achieved global unity through cooperation and gradual integration. Your species unified through exhaustion after nearly destroying yourselves. Do you see the difference? We made mistakes, Deho acknowledged. Terrible mistakes. But we learned from them. We grew beyond them. That is the point. We have the capacity to change. Or the capacity to hide your nature temporarily, suggested a Morphean council member. How do we know your peaceful behavior is genuine? How do we know you are not simply waiting until you are stronger before revealing your true intentions? Bora's face flushed with anger. That is an insult without basis. We came here in good faith. We have been honest about who we are. What more do you want from us? We want proof that you are safe, the Morphean replied. But how can you prove that? Your entire evolutionary history is built on violence and survival. That cannot be erased in a few generations of peace. Thexus added more information to the display, this time showing examples of human culture, movies filled with explosions and combat, books about war and survival, video games where the objective was to defeat enemies, news reports about crimes and conflicts, sports where humans physically competed against each other, sometimes resulting in injuries. 68% of your most popular entertainment involves conflict or violence, Thexus said. Your children grow up consuming media that glorifies combat. Your heroes are warriors, soldiers, and fighters. Even your peaceful sports like football and hockey involve physical contact, that would be considered assault in most council societies. Those are just stories, Bora protested. Fiction, fantasy, they don't represent real behavior. But they represent real desires, countered a Breivik psychologist. Entertainment reflects what a species finds compelling. The fact that you are drawn to stories of conflict suggests something fundamental about your psychology. Deho tried a different approach. What about our achievements in art? In science? In philosophy? We have created beautiful music, stunning visual art, profound literature that explores the depths of emotion and meaning. We have scientists who dedicate their lives to understanding the universe. We have philosophers who contemplate ethics and morality. Are we to be judged only by our capacity for violence and not our capacity for beauty and wisdom? Chancellor Vorath considered this. Your art is indeed impressive. But tell me, Captain, how much of your greatest art comes from periods of peace and how much comes from periods of struggle? Deho fell silent. The Chancellor had made a valid point. Some of humanity's most moving music came from times of war. Some of their most powerful literature dealt with suffering and survival. Their greatest technological leaps often occurred during conflicts or competitions. You are a species forged by adversity, Vorath continued. Everything about you reflects this. Even your language contains countless idioms about fighting and struggling. You talk about battling problems, fighting diseases, conquering challenges. Your metaphors are violent even when discussing peaceful activities. A Kranthi representative stood, her scaled form reflecting the chamber's lights. I have a question for the human delegation. What happens to your species during times of extended peace? How do you respond when there are no challenges, no struggles, no enemies? Bora thought carefully before answering. Historically, during peaceful periods, we focus on internal development. We build, we create, we explore. We turn our competitive instincts toward positive goals. We compete in sports, in business, in science. We find constructive outlets. So you must constantly have competition, the Kranthi noted. You cannot simply exist peacefully. You need challenge. You need struggle. What happens when you run out of constructive outlets? We find new ones, Deho said. That is why we want to join the council. We want to direct our energy toward exploration, toward learning about other species, toward contributing to galactic civilization. We want to be part of something larger than ourselves. Or, suggested another council member darkly, you want to find new challenges, new competitions, perhaps eventually new conquests. The accusation hung in the air. Deho felt his patience wearing thin. His jaw tightened. His posture shifted slightly, unconsciously moving into a more defensive stance. Every biosensor in the chamber detected the change. To the council members watching, it looked like a predator preparing to strike. Lieutenant Bora noticed the sensors reacting. She placed a hand on Deho's arm, a gentle reminder to stay calm. The gesture itself was telling. Even Bora, clearly the more diplomatic of the two, recognized when her captain was approaching his limits. Captain, she said softly, they are frightened. Try to understand their perspective. Deho took a deep breath, forcing himself to relax. You are right. I apologize, council members. This situation is frustrating, but that is no excuse for losing my temper. The fact that he had been on the verge of losing his temper, that he had needed a reminder to stay calm, only reinforced the council's fears. Here was a human, trained in diplomacy, skilled in negotiation, and even he struggled to control aggressive impulses when challenged. Chancellor Vorath spoke with what sounded like genuine regret. Captain Deho, Lieutenant Bora, I think we have heard enough for today. The council needs time to deliberate. This is not a decision we can make quickly. Thexus stood once more. Chancellor, if I may, I believe we should not merely delay this decision. I believe we should reject humanity's application entirely. The statement caused an uproar. Several council members agreed immediately. Others argued for more discussion. A few species, particularly those from worlds with slightly higher gravity or more challenging environments, suggested that the council was overreacting. Thexus raised his voice over the chaos. I am not suggesting this out of malice. I am suggesting it for the safety of all council species. We are dealing with a species from a death world, a species that destroyed the Velkari expedition with primitive weapons, a species that nearly destroyed themselves with advanced weapons, a species that cannot exist without conflict of some kind. How can we possibly integrate them safely into our civilization? Daiho stepped forward, his voice clear and strong despite the emotional weight of the moment. Counselor Thexus, you speaka. Part 4. Humanity's Answer. The news of the Council's rejection spread across Earth within hours. The response was mixed and complicated, reflecting the diversity of human opinion that the Council had found so confusing. Some people were angry, calling the Council cowardly and prejudiced. They organized protests outside government buildings, demanding that Earth break all contact with the galactic community. Others were hurt, feeling that humanity had been judged unfairly based on circumstances beyond their control. A smaller group found the situation darkly amusing, joking that humanity had literally been rejected for being too tough. But the most thoughtful responses came from those who saw the rejection as a challenge to overcome rather than a final judgment. Ambassador Hyun stood before the United Earth Assembly, addressing representatives from every nation and region on the planet. The assembly hall was packed, with thousands more watching through video feeds worldwide. We have been rejected by the Galactic Council, he said bluntly. They fear us because of our world, because of our evolutionary history, because of what we represent. The question now is, how do we respond? President Ji-won, leader of the United Earth Coalition, sat in the front row listening carefully. She was a woman in her late 50s with gray streaking through her black hair and eyes that had seen both the worst and best of humanity. She had been elected because of her reputation for wisdom and measured judgment, qualities that were desperately needed at this moment. After Hyun finished his report, Ji-won took the stage. I have spent the last 3 days reading everything we know about the Galactic Council. Their history, their cultures, their fears. I understand why they rejected us. From their perspective, we are a terrifying unknown. They look at Earth and see a nightmare world. They look at our history and see violence. They look at our future and see potential danger. She paused, letting her words sink in. But here is what I realized. They are not wrong about what we are. Earth is a harsh world. Our history does include terrible violence. We do have the capacity for great destruction. We cannot deny these truths. But they are only part of the truth. The Council sees our strength but not our compassion. They see our violence but not our sacrifice. They see what we can destroy but not what we can protect. Admiral Sunho, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet, stood to speak. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face marked by years of military service. Madam President, what are you proposing? Should we try to apply again? No, Ji-won said firmly. We should show them who we really are. Not the sanitized version we presented at the Council. Not a version designed to make them comfortable. We should show them the whole truth. Our strength and our kindness. Our capacity for violence and our capacity for love. We should stop apologizing for being the species Earth made us and instead demonstrate what that truly means. The Assembly debated for hours. Finally, they voted to approve what became known as the Terran Initiative. Instead of hiding their nature, humanity would embrace it completely and let the galaxy draw its own conclusions. The first part of the initiative was to open Earth to galactic tourism. The announcement shocked the Council. Within days, applications flooded in from species curious to see the legendary Death World for themselves. The humans accepted applications carefully, screening for species that could physically survive Earth's environment, even with protective equipment. The first tour group arrived 3 months later. 23 beings from 7 different species, all wearing environmental suits, all nervous about what they would encounter. Their guide was Yuna, a young woman with an easy smile and boundless enthusiasm. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, and the tourists watched in fascination and terror as clouds whipped past their windows. The turbulence made several of them queasy. Yuna seemed not to notice, chatting cheerfully about Earth's weather patterns as if discussing something ordinary. We are currently passing through a storm system, she explained. Nothing too serious, just some light precipitation and wind gusts around 70 miles per hour. Light? Squeaked a Morphean tourist whose suit was rattling from the turbulence. Oh yes, Yuna replied brightly. You should see it when we have real storms. Those are exciting. The shuttle landed at a nature preserve in what humans called North America. As the tourists disembarked, still sealed in their protective suits, they got their first direct look at Earth's surface. The gravity immediately pressed down on them, making every movement difficult. Those who tried to walk without assistance fell over. The humans provided mobility assists, small hovering platforms that bore most of the gravitational load. "Welcome to Earth," Yuna announced, spreading her arms wide. "Please stay within the marked paths and remember that the wildlife here is protected. They are not dangerous if you respect their space. Not dangerous." The tourists soon discovered what humans meant by that phrase. Within minutes, they encountered a creature Yuna identified as a deer. It was perhaps the size of a large dog with thin legs and large eyes. It seemed harmless enough until Yuna explained that it could run at speeds exceeding 40 miles per hour and had been known to seriously injure humans with its horns during mating season. "That's a prey animal," Yuna said casually. "They are food for larger predators." "If that is prey," asked a Breivik tourist slowly, "what are the predators like?" Yuna's smile widened. "Would you like to see some? We have a family of wolves that denned near here last spring. They are beautiful animals." The tourists were not certain they wanted to see wolves, but Yuna led them along a forest path. The trees themselves amazed the visitors. Plants that grew hundreds of feet tall, living for centuries, creating ecosystems within their branches. Yuna explained that forests covered vast portions of Earth's landmass, producing oxygen and supporting countless species. They found the wolves near a stream, 5 adults and several young pups resting in the shade. The tourists froze in terror. The wolves were massive, with powerful jaws full of sharp teeth, muscular bodies, and eyes that tracked movement with predatory precision. One of the wolves stood and began walking toward the group. The tourists panicked, trying to back away despite their mobility assists making movement difficult. But Yuna simply knelt down and extended her hand. The wolf approached her, sniffed her hand, and then allowed her to scratch behind its ears. "This is Shadow," Yuna said affectionately. "Her pack has been living in this preserve for 3 years. They are used to humans. You domesticated the predators?" A Turthan tourist asked in disbelief. "Not these wolves specifically," Yuna explained. "They are wild. But wolves and humans have a long relationship. We domesticated their ancestors about 40,000 years ago. Now we call them dogs, and they are our best friends. Most human families have at least one dog as a companion." The idea that humans had taken dangerous predators and turned them into family members seemed to perfectly capture the insanity of Earth. These creatures had looked at wolves, animals that could tear them apart, and decided to make them into pets. Later in the tour, Yuna showed them a human settlement. A small town with a few thousand residents. Children played in parks without supervision. Adults walked along streets without protective gear. Gardens grew in front of houses, filled with plants that produced food or simply looked beautiful. "Is it not dangerous to let children wander freely?" asked a Kranthi tourist. "What about the predators? The insects? The bacteria?" "We teach children to be careful," Yuna replied. "They learn what is dangerous and what is safe. And yes, occasionally someone gets hurt, but we accept that risk as part of living." The tourists watched a human child, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, climb a tree to retrieve a ball. The child was easily 20 feet above the ground, clinging to branches that looked too thin to support weight. The tourists were horrified. If that child fell, the impact could be fatal even for a human, but the child didn't fall. They retrieved the ball, climbed back down with casual confidence, and ran off to rejoin their friends. The child's parents, watching from nearby, looked completely unconcerned. "Your species lets children risk death for recreation," the Kranthi observed. "We let children learn to manage risks," Yuna corrected. "If we protected them from every possible danger, they would never develop the judgment to survive. Earth is challenging, so we teach our children to be strong, smart, and careful. It works well enough. Most children grow up healthy and happy." The tour continued for 3 days. The tourists saw cities and farms, mountains and oceans, deserts and tundras. They met humans from different cultures, different backgrounds, different beliefs. They ate human food, carefully analyzed for safety first. They listened to human music. They watched human entertainment. And slowly their perspective began to shift. Yes, Earth was a death world. Yes, humans were dangerous. But they were also kind, creative, funny, and surprisingly gentle despite their harsh environment. The tourists saw humans rescue injured animals. They saw communities come together to help neighbors in need. They saw art and beauty created by people who could have spent their energy purely on survival. The tourists returned to their worlds with stories that spread across the galaxy. Earth was terrifying, they all agreed. But Earth was also fascinating. And humans, while clearly dangerous, were not the monsters the Council feared. Part 2. The Truth Revealed. The council chamber descended into confusion. Representatives frantically accessed their terminals, pulling up the same restricted files that Thexus had discovered. The more they read, the more their various forms of skin changed color. Their breathing patterns altered. Their body languages shifted toward defensive postures. Chancellor Vorath slammed his wing against the podium, creating a sharp crack that echoed through the chamber. "Order! We will have order!" He turned his large eyes toward Thexus. "Counselor, you will explain yourself clearly. What exactly are you claiming about our guests?" Thexus took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He had spent 3,000 years as an archivist, and in all that time, he had never felt fear like this. "Chancellor, honored council members, I have accessed the deep archives. The planet these humans call Earth, we classified as Krath 7 approximately 50 million years ago. It was designated as an extreme quarantine zone. No species was permitted to approach it." Lieutenant Bora spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "Counselor Thexus, I respect your position, but I think you are overreacting. Yes, Earth has some challenging environments, but we have learned to thrive there. We have cities, farms, schools, hospitals. Children play in parks. Families gather for meals. We are not monsters." "That is precisely what makes you terrifying," Thexus replied quietly. He projected environmental data onto the central display. "Let me show the council what you consider normal." The first image showed Earth's gravitational measurement. Gasps and shocked sounds filled the chamber, as species after species compared it to their own worlds. Earth's gravity was 1.3 times what the council considered standard. More than half the species present would be unable to stand upright on Earth's surface. Their bones would break. Their organs would collapse under their own weight. Deho looked at the display, then at the council. "I don't understand the problem. That's just normal gravity to us." "Exactly," Thexus said. "You think bone-crushing pressure is normal?" He changed the image. "Now let us discuss your atmosphere." The atmospheric composition appeared. Oxygen made up 21% of Earth's air. Council members who understood chemistry immediately began expressing alarm. Several started making gestures that their species used to ward off evil. A Brevix representative stood, her tentacles waving in agitation. "That oxygen concentration would ignite my respiratory system. I would burn from the inside. We have 16 species on this council who would die within minutes of breathing Earth's air," Thexus continued. 12 more would suffer permanent damage. Only 5 species could survive it, and they would find it extremely uncomfortable. Bora frowned. "But oxygen is necessary for life. How do your species breathe?" "Most council species require oxygen concentrations between 2 and 8%, explained a Turthan scientist. "Your world has enough oxygen to support rapid combustion. Your atmosphere is literally flammable." Captain Deho was beginning to look concerned. This was not how he had expected this meeting to go. "What about the oceans? Surely water is common throughout the galaxy?" "Water exists, yes," Thexus acknowledged. "But covering 70% of your planet's surface? That is unusual. For most species, water is dangerous. It is a corrosive solvent. It causes rust, decay, and decomposition. Many civilizations spend considerable resources keeping water away from their settlements." "Water is corrosive?" Bora repeated, sounding genuinely confused. "We drink it. We bathe in it. Our bodies are mostly water." The chamber fell silent at that revelation. Several council members looked at the humans with renewed horror. These creatures were made of corrosive solvent. Thexus continued his presentation, and each new piece of information made things worse. Earth's temperature variations shocked species accustomed to climate-controlled worlds. The concept of seasons, where temperature could change by 40 or 50 degrees over a few months, seemed like deliberate torture. The existence of extreme climate zones, from frozen poles to burning deserts, painted a picture of a world trying to kill its inhabitants through temperature alone. Then Thexus showed Earth's weather patterns. "What you call hurricanes," he said, his voice shaking, "have wind speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour. They carry the energy equivalent of multiple fusion bombs. Your tornadoes can destroy entire settlements in minutes. Your thunderstorms generate electrical discharges with temperatures hotter than the surface of many stars." "Those are just storms," Deho said defensively. "They happen sometimes. We have warning systems. We build shelters. We manage. You manage," repeated Chancellor Vorath slowly. "You experience destruction on a scale that would end civilizations, and you simply manage." Thexus wasn't finished. He pulled up geological data. Your planet has tectonic plates. The very ground beneath you moves. You have earthquakes that can level cities. You have volcanoes that can darken your skies for years. Your continents drift across your world like ships on an ocean. The foundation of your civilization is literally unstable. A Morphean council member spoke up, his crystalline voice tinged with disbelief. How do you build anything permanent? How do you plan for the future when your world is constantly destroying itself? We rebuild, Bora answered simply. When earthquakes damage our cities, we develop better construction methods. When volcanoes erupt, we study them to predict future eruptions. We adapt. You adapt to planetary-scale disasters, Thexis said, as if that were normal. The archivist changed the display once more, and this time he showed Earth's biology. The images started with microscopic organisms, bacteria and viruses invisible to the naked eye. He explained that Earth teemed with trillions upon trillions of these organisms. They existed everywhere, in the air, in the water, in the soil, on every surface. Your world is filled with microscopic predators, Thexis explained. They invade bodies. They consume tissue. They cause disease and death. Yet you survive. How? Our immune systems fight them, Deho said. Every second of every day, our bodies identify and destroy harmful microorganisms. It's automatic. The council sat in stunned silence. Their species had immune systems too, but nothing like what the humans described. Most civilized species lived in carefully controlled environments where exposure to harmful microorganisms was rare. The idea of constantly fighting invisible battles just to stay alive seemed exhausting and terrifying. Thexis showed larger life forms next. Earth's predators appeared on the display. Animals with claws like knives, reptiles with venom that could kill in minutes, mammals that could tear through flesh with ease, ocean creatures large enough to swallow a human whole, insects that swarmed in millions. Your planet has thousands of species that can kill you, Thexis said. Yet you survived. More than survived. You became the dominant species. How? We are smarter, Bora replied. We use tools. We work together. We remember and learn from experience. You became more dangerous than the dangers around you, Thexis corrected. Let me show the council what that means. He pulled up the historical records from the Velkari expedition. The council watched in growing horror as the logs detailed humanity's ancient ancestors encountering advanced aliens. The reports described primitive humans, barely beyond the Stone Age, yet they had systematically destroyed an expedition force equipped with energy weapons, powered armor, and aerial vehicles. The logs showed how the early humans had studied the Velkari, how they had learned the weak points in the armor, how they had used coordinated tactics to separate and overwhelm individual soldiers, how they had taken Velkari weapons and figured out how to use them, how they had shown no mercy, no hesitation, no fear. One particular log entry caught everyone's attention. A Velkari soldier had written, "They do not stop. We wounded one of them badly. We thought it would slow them down. Instead, they carried their wounded companion and kept chasing us. Their injured one kept calling out, telling the others where we were. They value each other more than they value their own lives. How do you fight something like that?" Chancellor Vorath looked at the humans standing before him. They still appeared friendly, professional, civilized, but now he couldn't unsee what they truly were. Survivors of a death world, descended from creatures that had broken an empire. The Velkari Empire numbered in the trillions, Thexis said quietly. They controlled thousands of star systems. They had technology we still do not fully understand. One encounter with your ancestors destroyed them. Within 10,000 years of the Krath 7 expedition, their empire collapsed. The psychological trauma was too great. They lost the will to explore, to expand, to continue. They slowly died out. The species is now extinct. Deho and Bora looked at each other. Neither had known this history. Neither had realized that their distant ancestors had done something so terrible. We are not our ancestors, Deho said firmly. Yes, Earth is a difficult world. Yes, our history includes violence. But we have changed. We unified our planet peacefully. We outlawed warfare among ourselves. We created art and music and literature. We developed compassion and ethics. We are not the primitive hunters that the Velkari encountered. Perhaps, Chancellor Vorath said, but you are still from that world. You still carry that evolutionary heritage. Your species was forged in conditions that would kill almost everyone in this chamber. Part 1. The Discovery. The massive chamber floated in the darkness of space, a structure so vast it could house entire cities within its walls. Inside, beings from across the galaxy gathered in a semicircle of elevated platforms. Each platform held representatives from different worlds, different species, different civilizations that had come together thousands of years ago to form the Galactic Council. Today was special. Today, a new species requested membership. Ambassador Velcrin adjusted his crystalline body on his platform. His species, the Morphians, had been part of the Council for 2 million years. In all that time, he had seen dozens of new species join. Most were peaceful. Most were eager to learn. Most caused no trouble at all. The humans seemed no different. Captain Deho stood at the central podium, a tall figure in a dark blue uniform. His hair was cut short and neat. His face showed calm confidence. Next to him, Lieutenant Bora operated a holographic display that showed images from their home planet. Beautiful oceans, green forests, mountains touching white clouds, cities filled with lights and life. Deho spoke clearly. Honorable Council members, we come from the third planet in the Sol system. We call our world Earth. For thousands of years our people were divided. We fought wars. We made mistakes. But we learned. 50 years ago we unified our world under one government. 20 years ago we developed faster-than-light travel. Now we stand before you, hoping to join the galactic community. The council members nodded approvingly. Bora continued the presentation, showing human art and music. She displayed their medical advances and their scientific discoveries. She showed acts of kindness, humans helping each other during natural disasters, humans protecting endangered animals, humans reaching out to explore the unknown with wonder in their eyes. Chancellor Vorath, leader of the council, leaned forward. His species resembled large birds covered in purple feathers. Your presentation is impressive, Captain. Your species shows great promise. We will review your application and provide an answer within 1 solar cycle. Deho bowed respectfully. Thank you, Chancellor. We look forward to your decision. As the formal presentation ended, council members began talking among themselves. Most comments were positive. The Turthans admired human determination. The Breviks appreciated human creativity. Even the notoriously difficult Kranthi representative seemed pleased. But in the far corner of the chamber, Councillor Thexus sat frozen at his terminal. Thexus belonged to the Archivists, an ancient species whose sole purpose was preserving galactic history. His people lived for thousands of years, spending their entire existence maintaining the great databases that held records going back hundreds of millions of years. Every star chart, every species profile, every significant event was stored in the eternal archives. Thexus had been doing what archivists always did during first contact presentations. He cross-referenced the new species' stellar coordinates with historical records. Usually this took moments. Usually it revealed nothing interesting. This time was different. His 3-fingered hands trembled as he entered another query into his terminal. The holographic display before him showed the Sol system's exact position. He ran it through the historical database once more, certain he had made an error. The same result appeared. His breathing quickened. His skin changed from its normal blue to a pale gray. Other archivists noticed emotional distress only when it became severe, but Thexus was beyond severe. He was experiencing something his species rarely felt: terror. He accessed a deeper database, one sealed behind quantum encryption. These files were restricted, marked with warnings in languages both living and dead. Files that described places no one should ever visit, places that were forbidden for good reason. The coordinates matched perfectly. With shaking hands, Thexus entered one final query. Local designation of Sol 3 by indigenous population. The answer materialized before him. Earth, Terra, Sol 3. But beneath that, in ancient text-colored blood red, another name appeared: Krath 7. The archive entry expanded automatically. Filling his screen with information he desperately wished he could unsee. Classification: Extreme Quarantine Zone Threat Level. Maximum Survival Rate for Visitors, 0.0001%. Status: Do Not Approach Warning. Inhabitants are survivors of impossible conditions. Thexus scrolled through the file, his horror growing with each line. Environmental data showed conditions that should not support complex life. Gravity measurements indicated a world that would crush most civilized species. Atmospheric composition listed oxygen levels that would ignite the respiratory systems of 60% of council species. Temperature variations that would kill through thermal shock. Weather patterns with energy outputs comparable to military weapons. And the life forms. By all the stars, the life forms. The biological database showed creatures of nightmare. Massive predators with teeth designed to shatter bone. Microscopic organisms that could dissolve flesh. Venomous animals that could kill with a single bite. Plants that could poison with a touch. And everywhere, constant competition, constant struggle, constant death. But what made Thexus's blood run cold was the entry about the dominant species. The tool users. The ones who had somehow survived when every law of nature said they should be extinct. The humans. Ancient behavioral data painted a picture of a species that should not exist. Persistence hunters who could track prey for days without stopping. Problem solvers who could learn and adapt to any challenge. Pack hunters who worked together with terrifying efficiency. And most disturbing of all, a species that had survived by becoming more dangerous than everything that tried to kill them. Thexus found the historical incident report. 50 million years ago, the Velkari Empire had discovered Krath-7. They had been the dominant power in the galaxy at that time, controlling thousands of systems, commanding technology that made current civilization look primitive. They had explored the Death Planet, thinking to use its harsh conditions for genetic experiments. The expedition logs told a story of systematic destruction. The Velkari had sent their best soldiers equipped with the finest weapons, protected by advanced shields and armor. They had established a base on Krath-7. They had captured specimens. They had felt confident and secure. Then the primates found them. The expedition logs became increasingly desperate. The primates used tools. The primates used tactics. The primates learned from every encounter, adapting faster than the Velkari could adjust their defenses. When weapons were used against them, the primates studied the weapons and found weaknesses. The final log entry was brief, requesting immediate evacuation. 99.8% casualties. The primates have taken our weapons. They are using them against us. We thought we were studying them. They were studying us. Sending final transmission before the log ended. The Velkari Empire quarantined Krath-7 immediately. They erased it from all public star charts. They forbade any contact with the Death World or its inhabitants. Within their sealed records, they left one warning. Never return to Krath-7, the cost is too high. The survivors are too dangerous. Thexus looked up from his terminal. Across the chamber, Captain Deho and Lieutenant Bora were shaking hands with various council members, smiling, laughing, appearing completely harmless and friendly. But Thexus now saw them differently. He saw the bone density required to survive high gravity. He saw the muscle structure built for endurance. He saw the forward-facing eyes of a predator species. He saw scars on their hands, marks of a lifetime surviving on a world that tried to kill them every single day. These were not peaceful explorers. These were apex predators wearing polite masks. The Velkari Empire had numbered in the trillions. They had conquered a quarter of the galaxy. One expedition to Krath-7 had broken them so completely that their civilization collapsed within 10,000 years. They were now extinct, remembered only in archives like the one before him. And here stood the descendants of the creatures that destroyed them, asking to join the council. Thexus rose from his seat. His voice cracked as he spoke, but it carried across the chamber with urgent authority. Stop everything. We must halt this proceeding immediately. Every eye in the chamber turned toward him. Deho and Bora looked confused. Chancellor Vorath appeared annoyed at the interruption. Counselor Thexus, Vorath said coldly. Explain this disruption. Thexus's hand still trembled as he projected his terminal display onto the central viewing area. An ancient star map appeared showing the galaxy as it had been 50 million years ago. A red warning beacon pulsed around a familiar yellow star. The designation was clear. Krath-7, Forbidden Zone. This, Thexus whispered, his voice barely audible in the silent chamber, is their world. We knew it as the Death Planet. We quarantined it 50 million years ago, and now its inhabitants stand before us asking to join our council. Deho stepped forward, confusion evident on his face. I'm sorry, Counselor, but there must be some mistake. Earth is our home. It's a beautiful planet. Beautiful? Thexus interrupted, his voice rising in pitch. Your world is classified as an extreme survival zone. It should not harbor intelligent life. It should not harbor any life. By every measure we have, your planet is hell itself. The chamber erupted into chaos as council members began accessing the restricted files. What they found would change everything.